Certainly.
Bill, you ready? Thanks.
She's always been very supportive.
Bill's ready.
Okay, good evening. We will call the Wednesday, January 13th, 2016 Resource Management and Administration Committee to order. Please rise for the pledge. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Lathrop?
Here.
Max Bauer?
Here.
Wheelock?
Yes, ma'am.
Klaus?
Here.
Crawford?
Here.
Johnson?
Present.
Propa?
Yes. Okay, were there any changes to the minutes of December 9th, 2015? Okay, they will stand approved. First public comment.
Any person shall be permitted to address a meeting of the Board of Commissioners which is required to be open to the public under the provision of the Michigan Open Meetings Act. Public comment shall be carried out in accordance with the following board rules and procedures. Any person wishing to address the board shall state his or her name and address. No person shall be allowed to speak more than once on the same matter, excluding time needed to answer commissioners' questions, if any. The chairperson shall control the amount of time each person shall be allowed to speak, which shall not exceed 3 minutes. The chairperson may, at his or her discretion, extend the amount of time any person is allowed to speak. Public comment will be solicited during the 2 public comment periods noted in Rule 5.4 Orders of Business. However, public comment will generally be received at any time during the meeting regarding a specific topic currently under discussion by the board. Members of the public wishing to comment should raise their hand or pass a note to the clerk in order to be recognized and shall not address the board until called upon by the chairperson.
Is there anyone game for public comment? Anyone? Oh, John, come on up.
Good evening, John Syke, Grand Traverse County Planning and Development Director. I just wanted to alert you that tomorrow morning at 7 a.m. we'll be conducting some sound test readings related to the bell at the historic courthouse, working with Officer Maxson of the Traverse City Police Department as well as our facilities staff. To expedite the readings, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be ringing the bell at different intervals as we take different readings from around the neighborhood. So we're trying to see how it conforms to the city's noise control ordinance and actually get some readings. That way we can evaluate it better to see what the impact truly is, avoiding trying to who's in favor, who's against. And so there will be times when you will hear the bell ringing at odd times, probably between 7 and 8, maybe 8:30. So I just want to let you know.
So it's not like 37 o'clock or whatever.
Right. Exactly.
Thanks for all your work on that too, John. Anyone else? Okay, we will close public comment. On to the approval of the agenda. I do have one change. We will be deleting under department action items, letter F, item number 2, the Fleet Management Services contract for the Sheriff's Department. We anticipate to see that come back before us on Ways and Means next week. It just needs to be tweaked a little. Are there any other additions or changes to the agenda?
Did you say you're removing that?
Removing item F2, Fleet Management Services contract.
Madam Chair, I would move to approve the agenda as amended.
Second. Okay. Moved by Max Bauer, support by Crawford and Johnson. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. On to the consent calendar. Sarah.
The purpose of the consent calendar is to expedite business by grouping non-controversial items together to be dealt with by one commission motion without discussion. Any member of the commission, staff, or the public may ask that any item on the consent calendar be removed and placed elsewhere on the agenda for full discussion. Such requests will be automatically respected. If any item is not removed from the consent calendar, the action noted, receive and file, or approval, is approved by a single committee action adopting the consent calendar. All information identified on the consent calendar can be viewed in its entirety at www.grandtraverse.org. A, receive and file. 1, Conservation District Monthly Report. 2, Road Commission Monthly Report. 3, County Staff Report. B, approval. 1, 2016 hauler licenses.
Is there any commissioner that would like to pull an item from the consent calendar? Ron?
2 and 3.
Okay. Sunny, did you have others?
Yes, I'd like to pull B1, please.
Okay. Anyone else?
Is there anything left?
Madam Chairman, I would move to approve the Conservation District's monthly report.
Second.
Support. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Well, I'm so excited everybody's here. That's a part of the things that were pulled. We will start with item number 2 under receive and file, the Road Commission monthly report. Jim. I'm going to take the time now to thank the Road Commission. I think it's been an excellent job during all of this snow, and it's been weird snow, middle of the night snow, daytime snow, lake effect snow, storm snow.
Weekend.
And it's clear the improvements and efficiencies that you guys have made. I think I've lived at the top of one of the steepest hills in the county for 21 years, and I've never seen it this clear. And as you know how many accidents are there, it's nice not waking up to accidents every day and coming home to them. So very nicely done to
Thank
all
you.
your drivers and your managers.
Jim Cook, Grand Traverse County Road Commission.
Ron?
My only comment is under item 1, the drainage districts. You indicate you do refer to them as drainage districts, and I would just like to see them as they're still proposed drainage districts, and they're not, because they're not districts yet. That's the only reason I pulled it.
I would agree with you. I call them drainage issues.
Right,
Yeah.
right, but just because the other reports, it's proposed, so we'll leave it. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's it.
I would move to receive and file the County Road Commission monthly report.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jim.
Support.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. On to the county staff report. Number 3, Ron.
Couple items. The first item is under the Drain Commissioner's report, and he indicates the amount of hours that he's working and the salary that he gets. He didn't figure in the per diem and his mileage that he truly gets. So I just wanted to bring that up, that if you added all that together, instead of $5.55 an hour, with those hours, he'd be at $9.29, which puts him above minimum wage, but barely. But I just didn't want to leave it at that $5.55.
I'd like to comment on that. Just got a text, an email from the Drain Commissioner. He'd asked Sally at HR to tell him what they think he makes an hour, and he was wrong. It wasn't what he said. It's $3.34 an hour. So you can add the extra if you like,
Okay.
Ron. And by the way, mileage is not pay, it's reimbursement.
Exactly.
Yeah, okay. Well, make the record clear like you do.
Right, thank you. My other item that I'd just like to bring to people's attention is on that's Civic Center, the meeting room, where we're putting $5,200 into upgrading the electrical system for the treadmills. It's just, I was hoping that when we signed over the Civic Center and the pool to the YMCA, that we would be pretty much done with that and just taking care of the utilities and maintenance like was reported, but I see we're doing upgrades as well. That's all.
Did you want to address that? We do have the director here hiding in the corner. I can't. I found out about this recently, and I really don't know the whole story, so I don't want to speak for her.
You mean the director of,
Parks and Recreation.
Chris Erickson, Director of Parks and Recreation.
Didn't know she was behind
looking at
you.
me.
Oh, I'm sorry.
She was sitting
I
behind
know I'm
you, Dan.
absent-minded, but
I forgot you had that job.
yeah, I did.
Commissioner Klaus?
Yes.
That's a good question. We have applied for a grant to cover that amount for the upgrade, and part of the deal with the YMCA was that we allow them to use the meeting room so that they can expand the facility and offer exercise equipment, and that way it would it would make their success chances greater of making a go of it at the pool. We would hope that the electrical upgrade would benefit us down the road as well. So we're hoping to hear back about our grant. I think it will probably be in February. We applied for a 2% grant for that. If that doesn't work out, then fundraising is going to be our next objective for that.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
As long as we have our director here. Today was day one at the pool, correct?
Yes.
How did it go?
Well, it was a steady stream of people all day, and people were waiting to get in at 5:30 when they opened. I felt like it was successful. It certainly seemed to be.
Do we have an official update yet on the numbers for the?
Jay said he can have one to me within the week. He's got to do some of that separating out.
Yeah.
Because there are 3 Y facilities, but he will count the people who are using the who are using the other facilities and the Civic Center toward our count.
Oh, he will.
That will hopefully reach the 400, then we can relinquish the utility costs over to the Y.
Thanks.
Okay,
You're
great.
welcome.
How'd
Thanks
the
for
water look?
asking. Pardon?
How did the water look?
It looked supreme.
Wow.
It was very clear.
Very cool.
Yes, they're going to do a great job. We love having the staff there. I think it's going to be a wonderful collaboration in many ways.
Very cool.
Thank you, Chris.
Thank you.
I will move to receive and file the county staff report.
Support.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, Sunny, on to your item.
The hauler licenses, I just renew my objection to the hauler licenses, the way they've been handled. I will support this tonight because of the fact that we need to be consistent. We've already charged a number of haulers for the 2016 licenses. As we look at their rebuilding of the Resource Recovery Department, or however we're going to title it soon, I just think that hauler licenses is an item that we really need to evaluate whether or not there's a valid reason for them. You know, a $25 license, by the time we assess how many people need to have the licenses, bill them, collect the money, receive them, mail out the receipts, the $25 doesn't cover the effort that we have involved in it.
Well, I echo your sentiments, but I will let you know, I received my hauler's license in the mail, and the fee has doubled to $50. So it still doesn't cover, as you say, but they did at least increase the fee there for the 8.5% of people that actually follow the law and fill out their hauler's license. We appreciate that. So I do echo that, but obviously I will vote to support because there's.
Yeah,
really-
we've already asked a number of people to pay for 2016 licenses. I just wanted to
We did.
make it
Including
completely clear that, you know, this is a fee that I've objected to for a long time, so I'm probably not going to stop now.
Well, we're going to get you your T-shirt. I'm going to move, I can't believe I'm doing this. I'm going to move to approve the 2016 hauler licenses
I'll
with
support. regret. I'll support.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Make Sunny second it.
It's not a good idea. Okay, we don't have special orders of business. We're done with our consent calendar, we're on to department action items. I see George Stanton is here, and the people of Family Court. Are you doing it, or HR? Okay. Acceptance of grant funding for immediate approval.
We have 2 grants that we've received, and one is for our drug court, and the other one is for aggression replacement therapy. This is Dr. Kathy Filon
And Topher Filon.
Thank you, sorry. And she will explain what those
Our sobriety court grant, the drug court grant funds our sobriety court program, which we've had for a number of years. It's essentially youth that are identified with substance abuse issues. Either they come into the court under truancy, or they come into the court under other crimes, and in the assessments that we do, we find out that really at the heart of the reason why they're committing these crimes is substance abuse. And so the drug treatment court program allows them and their family to get treatment. There's group therapy for the family, there's individual treatment for the youth, drug treatment for the youth, and there's a team that meets and makes decisions as to what will happen as the youth progresses through each one of the phases of the program. So there are phases, they graduate from one phase to the other, and then at the end, hopefully walk out the door sober, no longer a youth that is facing a life ahead of crime, and the family knows how to work with a youth that's had substance abuse issues. So we've had some success. We implemented a few new things in the program this year that are evidence-based therapies that we're really excited, that have a great track record in regards to success rates with working with youth. So there's that program. And then the next grant we have is for aggression replacement training. It is, again, an evidence-based program. This rural grant was offered to counties as defined by DHHS at the state level as rural counties. We were invited to the initial call. There were, as I understand on the phone call, there were 5 counties on the phone call. They were only going to fund 3 counties. They encouraged counties to work together or have regional applications. We reached out to Manistee-Benzie County to work with us for this program, specifically because it funds the startup money. It's a pretty hefty price tag to bring the trainer of this evidence-based program that actually will train our facilitators, our volunteers, to facilitate the program. And our thought was we would have a better chance if we applied regionally and bring the trainer once to Northern Michigan and have them on board to get their volunteers trained to run the program, and we'll get ours trained at the same time. So that's the joint piece of the program. The program then, the grant also then funds us to run 3 10-week aggression replacement training programs. Essentially, we'll be identifying youth that have aggressive behaviors. So it may not be what brought them into the court, or it may be what brought them into the court. We've talked quite extensively. We have youth that come into the court under domestic violence charges and misdemeanor charges, so they're not felony charges. Obviously, there are issues within the family. If we send that youth away, they're not working every day immediately with their family. This program works with the youth pretty intensively, so 3 nights a week for 10 weeks, they'll be working with the youth and be assigning the youth to work with the family and bring back in those issues. And so it's a really interesting program. So if something comes up in the family that night, then they come back the next day and they address that within the program. Again, it's a SAMHSA evidence-based program, one of the best practices. We had to pick from a menu of best practice programs, and this is one that really seemed to fit with what the needs are in our court.
Were there any questions? Son?
So will this be used in the 3 counties in our district plus Manistee and Benzie, or will it be just Grand Traverse, Manistee, and Benzie?
It'll be just Grand Traverse, Manistee, Benzie, yes. So Manistee, Benzie will come to the training, but then the grant funds them to run their own program in Manistee, Benzie, and funds us to run the 3 10-week programs here in Grand Traverse County.
And why did we choose to use Manistee and Benzie instead of the counties in our district?
Leelanau made the decision that they wanted to pursue the same grant, but for a different program. And so they also received the grant, which was exciting for us as a region, but their grant focuses on diversion and a need that they have specific to Leelanau County. And that was the only, so Manistee, Benzie, and Leelanau County were the only 2 counties in our region that we felt made sense because there were no other counties at the table applying for the grant or interested in applying.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
I'll make the motion to immediately accept the aggression replacement training grant in the amount of $121,991. I'll do these one at a time.
Okay.
And this is for immediate approval.
Support.
Okay, moved by Max Bauer, support by Johnson. Discussion?
And I get it. So is this more for the aggression? Is that more of a family-based program then you're going to help, or just for the offender?
It's for the offender, but the way the program works is they have to address issues in the program that are coming up with the family.
Okay.
So the family won't actually report to sessions, but the youth have to do pieces of the program, then they go home at night, and if something comes up, then that has to be brought back to the program, and they have to learn how to address that. So what we find is when we send youth away to a residential program, many times they'll come back and they'll try to implement all these things they learned, but their family,
Yeah.
there's still all those triggers.
Yeah.
And this teaches them how to work within those triggers, because the family may not change, but they have to change
And
regardless.
that's kind of why I asked.
Yes.
Sometimes that's the symptom of what's at home.
Absolutely.
And I was just wondering if that's going to help in any way
Yes.
address the whole dynamic.
Yes.
You know, because you can work on the child, but if the the root cause isn't changed, it may not.
And
be-
that's why it's so helpful to keep the child in the community when they're doing this kind of work, because that's where the triggers are. If we send them away, they're in a structured program that they don't have those challenges.
I just think we've heard good things throughout the years, but it's just nice to hear that there's actually people looking at changing behaviors instead of just punishment, So,
Yes.
because if you don't change it, it's going to be a lifelong road, so.
Absolutely.
Sunny?
Is there a match on this grant?
No.
I guess, obviously, I never like immediate approval of things because we
I've
don't
never
have it
heard
and everyone knows
I've
that.
never heard you say that.
But more importantly, if this does not have a match of county money, this should have been an administrative approval. It shouldn't have come to us in the first place. It's here tonight, so we'll deal with it as we move forward. If there's not a commitment of county general fund monies, I believe that it's not a legislative issue that the county board should handle. It's an administrative issue.
There's lots of things that we should be separating.
Exactly.
It would be the same thing with the sobriety court. It's from the scale, that's separate, there's no matching funding.
Okay.
We'll need a roll call vote.
Max Bauer,
Yes.
Wheelock,
Yes.
Klaus,
Yes.
Crawford,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Lathrop,
Yes.
Croupa.
Yes.
I would move to immediately approve and accept the juvenile drug court grant in the amount of $40,000.
I'll second.
Moved by Max Bauer, support by Lathrop. Discussion? Bob?
How effective is a program like this? I know, substance abuse can be hard. You just look at people trying to kick cigarettes, When you're an addictive personality, it's tough no matter what you're doing. But I guess I'm just curious, how effective are these kind of programs?
The nationwide juvenile sobriety courts have had a lot of challenges. The success rates are not very good, and that's why we look specifically at bringing one of the best practices and we received what's called a technology transfer funds to support that. So we're bringing a best practices model that's been most effective in working with youth to implement in our program this year. It's called the 7 Challenges Program, and it really addresses youth at a completely different level. And we're requiring, and we'll have an invitation out to the community for an information session for you to learn what this program will do with our youth. But we're bringing on board providers that are required to attend this intensive 3-day training and become certified to use this program. So we know that there are issues, and there are issues nationwide, so we are trying to reach out to what the best practices are.
Even at the 40,000 though, if you helped one child out again, you've more than recouped that cost financially later on, keeping them out of the system, so.
And to keep them, again, to keep them in our community as opposed to sending them somewhere that's going to be more costly.
Any further discussion? Roll call?
Wheelock,
Yes.
Klaus,
Yes.
Crawford,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Lathrop,
Yes.
Max Bauer,
Yes.
Croupa.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We're on to the Safe Haven Grant application for immediate approval.
Hi, my name is Lauren Wolf. I'm the program supervisor of Safe Haven, and this is Crystal Thomas. She was the former supervisor as well. And we're here today to ask for your support again in supporting and partnering with us, the county, for our next grant cycle. We also have Judge Phillips and Judge Stanton, as well as Kathy, here to attest to the need that we have in the community for this program. We are coming down to, so this grant is which you guys have got plenty of background in. It's a 3-year grant cycle, and it's due in about a week, and so we'll be doing that, but then it starts up in October. So it's still to run our supervised visitation and safe exchange centers that we have both in Traverse City as a full-time site, as well as our Mansalona site, with one addition. With this grant, we're actually requesting a little bit more money to partner with Legal Services of Northwest Michigan. And with that, through a lot of the meetings that we have had with our court partners and so on, court personnel has been telling us that there has been a lot of concern for cases getting dismissed and so on and so forth because survivors of domestic violence haven't been represented or haven't had the money to be able to represent themselves. And so there's been always safety concerns with that. So with that being said, Legal Services is actually going to do is offer with this 1,000 hours per year of free legal assistance to domestic violence survivors and their families in civil cases, specifically PPO hearings, divorce proceedings, custody, that type of thing. So with that, we are here today, like I said, to ask for your support again in helping us with this grant. So,
Do we have any questions?
The same comments that I made earlier as far as, if it's not a Manson County fund and it should be an administrative decision, shouldn't come to us.
Is there a motion?
Madam Chair, I move that we recommend immediate approval to move forward with support and sponsorship of the Safe Haven grant application.
Support.
And there may be a case there that we do have a match because we are providing county taxpayer-funded employees as the sponsors in our finance department and our circuit court and our administration department. So I think that that is probably a board issue. It appears as if Chris and Sherry and Carol are putting some good work into this with Aaron. So. Okay. Roll call, please.
I got a comment.
Oh, I'm sorry, Bob.
I know, I said I wasn't going to say anything tonight, but
More than
I have, I know. I'm on a roll. And this is more commentary than anything, just, it's important that we have facilities like this, because I know that, domestic abuse is so prevalent that I think the average person, in law enforcement, the average person has no idea how much it goes on, and a lot of people have no idea how to get out of that.
Right.
And they really need that assistance the whole way through. I mean, that 1,000 hours is incredible, to help somebody, because they'll get, as you know, they get to that one step and then, all right, I'm done, I'm stopped, and it continues on. So it's just my commentary is it's just an awesome thing you guys are doing. Ladies.
One thing interesting, when I learned about this, I knew about the Safe Haven program and how it worked, but I didn't realize that it assisted co-parents in custody transfers. Many times, we've all had that neighbor where we watch the mom park halfway down the subdivision and the little kid comes walking with the backpack down, and they make sure that they get in. And I thought that was a really interesting part of this grant because that happens more often than not in families here. I don't think people realize how common the custody exchange weekend dad-mom transfer is. So it's a very worthwhile cause. And
We had an extended length of time here, I haven't seen them for the last 6 months, where an exchange must have been happening in my parking lot, because every Friday and every Monday, I would see these same two cars, and the kids would get out of one in the backpacks and get into a different one.
Absolutely. You have to have a neutral territory.
At least they were out in the open, and, everyone felt safe, so it's a good thing. So.
But there is of note in our information that we received recently, a Grand Traverse County woman who had her arm broken by her kid's father during their exchange at the McDonald's parking lot. So it's just an interesting thing for those that know of Safe Haven. I don't know that people know there's resources just if you are struggling with that weekly exchange. So it's good to at least highlight that since we're coming before the board and publicly talking about it.
Well, thank you. Yeah,
People need help.
Yeah, one of the things I like to add is that in the last fiscal year, between our two sites, with our Traverse City site, which is full-time, our Mansalona site is a part-time site, but between the two, we did over 4,000 exchanges and visitations in just a year period. So it's needed in the community.
Very much so.
Thank you.
Roll call.
Klaus?
Yes.
Crawford?
Yes.
Johnson?
Yes.
Lathrop?
Yeah.
Max Bauer?
Yes.
Wheelock?
Yes.
Kropa?
Yes. Thank you. Emergency management, on to Greg. Hey, this is for immediate approval. I am going to note that we canceled our public health and safety meeting last week.
This is the only one that would have been a public health and safety meeting last week.
I just
And it-
feel the
when I
need to
called the
point
health
that out.
department, they said they didn't have anything.
I didn't
so-
want to preface Greg with that segue. The Emergency Management Performance Grant Supplemental Award.
Greg Bird, Emergency Management Coordinator.
Judge.
Sonny, this used to be handled administratively, but I think with all the changes. This is simply when they rectified at the state, the Emergency Management Performance Grant money from 2014, they had extra and they passed it through the locals. I'm asking for immediate approval because Sherry said we've already received this, so we just need to change the official signature to send
Alrighty then.
their paperwork back to them. So they want to send us, or they already did send us an extra $1,611.88. It goes toward my salary and benefits.
Shouldn't
Oh,
have
well,
said,
in
shouldn't have
that
said
case,
that.
I don't know.
Do we have a motion?
Madam Chairman, since we've already cashed the check, I would say we better accept this grant money for the amount of $1611.88
For immediate approval.
for immediate approval.
Support.
Moved by Wheelock, support by Max Bauer. Good time just to say thanks to Greg and Sherry, both. Grand Traverse County received all their checks from the August 2nd storm, and we all know what government paperwork is like. You can only imagine how many agencies were there, FEMA, the state of Michigan. It was good work to both of you. So just wanted to say that before we call for a roll call vote.
I would also, in that regard, like to comment, I did hear on the radio the other day, I don't remember if it was Tim Lodge from the city or someone speaking about theirs, and gave extensive credit to Greg and the county staff for helping them through the process. So I want to recognize that it was not only assisting Grand Traverse County, but I know they also assisted the city of Traverse City and Leelanau County.
And the
So
townships.
Now, City of
Acme
Traverse
and
City's
Whitewater.
in Grand Traverse County.
I understand that, but
I
but
say that every
they
chance
helped
I
them
get.
through the process so as that the city could receive direct monies too.
And
was just
Acme and
teasing
Whitewater and Leelanau. Okay, roll call.
Crawford,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Lathrop,
Yep.
Max Bauer,
Yes.
Wheelock,
Yes, ma'am.
Klaus,
Yes.
Ropa.
Yes, thanks for coming tonight, Greg. On to Planning and Development, the staffing plan amendment to Planning and Development Department. John Syke.
Good evening again, John Syke, Grand Traverse County Planning and Development Director, and what I'm presenting to you this evening for your consideration is the staffing plan amendment to the Planning and Development Department. Late last year, there was a situation where the Planning and Development Department staff assisted the Construction Code Department in terms of working to kind of resolve some situations related to a project within the city of Traverse City that had some situations that weren't working out very well between the inspection staff and that development. And I think because of that opportunity, at least that we were involved in that there was the idea of extending our assistance to the Construction Code Department and in terms of trying to improve some of the processes there and operations. That came along with then the idea to actually have Construction Code become a division of the Planning and Development Department. So what I'm proposing to you this evening is the changes that will be needed to take place in order for that Construction Code to be a division of the Planning and Development Department. What that entails with is the change of the Construction Code Director to a Construction Code Supervisor, that'd be the supervisor for that division. There would also be elimination of two positions within the Construction Code Division. There would be an office specialist and an office clerk that would be deleted, but then there would be the addition of an office coordinator that's a step above the office specialist that would work in that division. There are some things that we've already been talking with Construction Code about. We'll be doing some further planning exercises come Monday morning, but we're looking at making some technology improvements in terms of tracking software programs, looking at some equipment improvements, new vehicles and so forth, so that their operations can be run a little bit more smoothly. So this is, does not address, I know there's, you'll still see soil erosion and sedimentation control program there because of, in light of some of the findings from the audit program, or the audit that came from the DEQ. We're not prepared to make changes to that department yet. We're still trying to formulate that action plan, but that will be coming out here shortly. And there will be changes being made to that program as well to improve its operation. I think one of the things that I should point out is I think why we were approached in this was because of our relationship with a lot of development community and others, local officials and so forth, in terms of our operations, and seeing if that can also translate into some improved customer service with the construction code program within Grand Traverse County.
I would move to accept staff's recommendation and add a construction code supervisor and office coordinator to the staffing plan for the planning and development department, and delete an office specialist and an office clerk.
And
a code
the
director.
And a code director.
Do you have support? Dan? Okay. Moved by Max Bauer, support by Lathrop. To discussion. Oh, boy. Let's start, I'm going to start in the end, and we'll just go around. Dan, do you have any?
I'm glad to see this. I think that without being mean-spirited, I have not been impressed with the way that department has handled soil erosion. I don't know about, I'm not very much of an expert on building code, but I know a lot about soil erosion, and it was handled miserably, and things fell apart under the direction. And I think that if it happened there, it's probably true in the building code department as well, although I don't know specific examples like I do in soil erosion. I think also it's a good financial move for the county. It saves some money and gets the job done better, more efficiently. They're going to develop ways to measure, monitor, and manage, and they haven't had that. So I'm 100% for this move.
Regarding the soil erosion portion of it, in 2012, out of the general fund, we paid $151,577 to fund soil erosion. In 2013, after the elimination of the drain commissioner in that department, we funded $54,402. In 2014, we funded $56,229. 2015, which could still be open somewhat, we funded $10,810. When the drain commissioner was eliminated from that spot, that also eliminated a personnel that was not ever, there wasn't anybody else to support with extra inspectors, as I understand. So to just say that it was a dismal failure, right out of the gate, almost $96,000 come ahead, with no support from, I would have to believe, from the commission to put extra staff on there. As for building department, construction code, we're eliminating one staff out of that department, correct, John? One personnel.
Yes,
One of
at this
the,
time.
right, there will be one less person behind the counter when,
Essentially the elimination of the office clerk, yes.
right, which I know I call there enough throughout the week to schedule inspections. I don't always get a voice on the end of the phone. That's just 3 people in there. And when I do go in there, I'll see as many as 8 people at the desk in the morning Your first sentence, improve customer service. You're not going to improve customer service at that counter. And unless you or Gene are there to see that and experience it, you won't know it, because they'll deal with it. I'm a little curious with a mandated service, which is construction code and soil erosion. We have planning and development, which is a non-mandated service that we provide. And as for the planning portion of it, it's strictly a recommending body. It's not a, correct, John? Or you just make recommendations, you don't?
Are you speaking regarding the planning commission?
The planning.
Yeah, that's one function of the department.
Okay, how about the planning? What does the planning department do then?
There's a lot of things. It's not just there to support the planning commission. Actually, we have 4 major boards. We actually have 6 total, but we deal with about 41 different board members on a monthly basis. In terms of the planning commission is one of them, the land bank authority, the brownfield redevelopment authority, the economic development corporation, and the farmland and open space preservation board. So that's just, those are the boards that we staff, but there are a lot of other things that we do, which, you know, if you just look at the planning and development in terms of thinking that's related to the planning commission, that's actually probably a pretty small function compared to some of the other things that we do. We're probably your lead economic development organization within the county in terms of out there working with the private sector, developing public-private partnerships. The brownfield program itself is a major impact into the community in terms of revenues. The county is already seeing some of the payoff of those projects coming forward. Certainly, I think a good payoff in terms of your investment.
The construction code, they take zero. They're an enterprise fund. They take zero from us. What do you suppose that in the first year that the planning and development will siphon off out of there for your support to construction code?
Just whatever the time that we put into it. I don't see it being considerable. There might be some, at least from my standpoint, initially, yes, trying to resurrect and resolve some of the situations there. Right now, we're dealing with soil erosion and what the DEQ audit has come to its findings. So initially, yeah, there will be quite a bit of work, but it's our goal to get that operating. I think it'll be a situation where the public will, you know, initially they'll probably won't see a lot of change, but over time they certainly will. I think it's our intent to enhance the operations there. Some of the things that are a little bit antiquated, the soil erosion program still uses paper files for everything. There's no software or anything that's been used there. The construction code program is antiquated in its software operations. That's something that we want to bring forward that will hopefully provide a better service to the customers like yourself that are there and able to schedule inspections and so forth. We think in the long run we can make some improvements. Certainly it's not us alone that's going to make that happen. We're working, you know, currently with Bruce on that. He's a key piece to it. And we think if he's given the support in the direction that he's needed to make the changes, I think he's going to be a good part in making that happen. But it's something where we're at right now. It's just literally a few days into this whole process.
Right. The job that you are referring to that caused a rub, I guess, with some contractor, you're talking about the job at the corner of Washington and Cass Street. Is that the
Washington Place? Yes.
Washington Place. I had a chance to sit in on a meeting with the contractors there at the building department, yesterday, and they were, they had voiced that they didn't think that, they didn't want their developer to get involved with the commission, with the building department on that. And so we was at the meeting yesterday. It went fine, but I'm surprised. When did we take it upon ourselves as a commission to step in the middle of a project or someone's job to intervene when there's clearly, if there's a problem with the construction code department and the developer or builder, there is a Department of Licensing and Regulation Affairs to contact with the phone number in Lansing that is willing and able to intervene on the behalf of a developer. That's the direction they should go. That's the direction any homeowner should go if there's a problem with a builder. I hate the thought that every time somebody has an issue, that they would come to a commissioner or come to anybody other than the building department or Lansing. We seem to be overstepping our bounds to get in there. So with that, I can honestly say Grand Traverse County, for their construction department, there's nobody finer than that department there. I'm sure people who don't involve themselves with it, who hear things but don't interact, have a different opinion. That's probably the opinion that'll prevail. Thank you.
Next member. I am supporting the staffing plan change for a number of reasons. And I'm not going to get into you will all be delighted that I'm not going to get into the weeds and touch upon soil erosion. This is a staffing plan that is being proposed for construction code. And I see benefits to this. Number one, the benefit is technology. I think as Grand Traverse County construction continues to grow, and I see it growing all over the city, I think that it only makes sense that we improve our technology. And the fact of the matter is, it hasn't been done. And John and Jean, you are looking at improving technology. It's going to allow us, much like Mr. Cooney looked into technology for his office, it's going to allow, I believe, us to provide more service, better service for less as we grow. So instead of killing trees and having inspectors driving back and forth to the Lafreniere office, they are going to have the technology they need to become more service-oriented and more effective and more efficient. And I don't know anybody who necessarily disagrees with that. I do apologize to Commissioner Klaus. I was the commissioner that was contacted by the developer of the Washington place. I did not know there was a telephone number. I had no clue. What the developer told me on the phone was the inspectors said that they were going to come this dates. They did not come, and I'm in danger, my project is in danger of collapse because I can't close. That's what I was told. And so I convened a meeting. I attended the meeting, but I sat off on the sideline and let John and Jean and the people that know something handle the situation. But in the future, now that I know that there's a telephone number, I certainly would take it now and use it. I have had feedback from another developer. who is developing a hotel in Traverse City, who said, quite honestly, it's the worst experience, and I got an email, it's the worst experience in all the hotels they have ever built, the worst experience they have ever had. Again, I don't know, I didn't get into the weeds, I really didn't respond. I just see an opportunity here to improve, using technology, using John and Jean's knowledge of the development in Grand Traverse County. I just think it's a good match. And by the way, I did attend the Michigan Township Association meeting, and I mentioned, actually John was there, and he mentioned that this was in all likelihood going to be discussed at the county board level. And I heard from township trustees afterwards, they were delighted. They really believe that service is going to improve. They think technology to do that is a wonderful way to go, and for those reasons, I support it.
Sonny?
Well, first, I want to stress, like Mr. Klaus, being one of those individuals that deals with the construction people and inspectors on a fairly regular basis, I think we're very fortunate to have the people we have in Grand Traverse County, both for the county and Garfield Township. Just went through a rather major project with the new movie theater, where the plans that were designed by the architect absolutely don't meet the code. You know, well, there's no reason for me to build railings that don't meet the code. And literally, the architect from Tennessee told me they build them the way that I drew them, or we'll get somebody else to build them. Well, I met with the contractor, met with the building inspectors, and we built the rails that met the code. So I'm not sure that the architect in Tennessee is real happy with me, but my relationship with them is a lot more important than my relationship with an architect in Tennessee. So whenever I see these kind of staffing changes, I always like to see what kind of difference it makes, you know, what the value of those positions are. You know, I think one thing that we have to be careful about when we have these discussions is that construction code is an enterprise fund, but soil erosion is not. So we need to make sure that we have a separation of those monies when we talk about what is costing us to provide these services. I believe, unless I'm mistaken, soil erosion is not an enterprise fund. Construction code is, so that is different. I do like the talk in here about the fact that we'll be able to do online permitting and tracking, because there's a lot of times that, you know, it'd be real easy just to be able to send an email and schedule an inspection, because, you know, you call down there, well, the inspectors have gone for the day, you can't get a hold of anybody until tomorrow morning at 8 o'clock. So, you know, it's just, I think there's a potential to make it better and make it more efficient, and, you know, and I hope we can do that. Sometime between now and the end of the month, when this becomes finalized, I'd like to see some sort of a number difference. You know, when we eliminate a director and we add a supervisor and we eliminate a couple office specialists, there should be a net difference at the bottom line here, you know, or at least some sort of a number. I'd like to see what that number is.
That was going to be some of my questions, was the actual dollar amount, because I would have liked to have seen that too, but, you know, and I have to disagree with both of you. I mean, that soil erosion, I know we're not here to talk about that, but that was abysmal. That shows me there's leadership issues somewhere. If they're getting away with that kind of stuff there, who knows what they're getting away with in code. And that's just point blank and as blunt as I can get, that I think they need to look hard at the leadership in there, because that's just, like I said, it's one thing to say you don't have enough staff, but they're not even complete anything. And again, you know, maybe I'm completely off base, but I just, when I see stuff like that, it just gets you. So,
Carol?
I'm all for improving efficiencies and improving customer service. It may not happen right away. You know, there may be a bit of a wait here and there as they go through improving their technology and their processes, but I think in the end, it will make a difference. And I'm all for, you know, better customer service and better oversight of the whole process, and I think it would be a very good move.
So when you're bringing technology to the department, Motorola brought technology to 911. They brought technology, they're servicing it, they're leaving. You're bringing it, you're taking over the operation. It's just curious, how does bringing technology and helping that, is it impossible to just help a department? Or is it best just to take it over like this here? And then along with that, is the plan to take the director as Bruce, and I don't know if there's a reduction if it's just title or if it's reduction in pay, or is the intent to keep his pay frozen at his director pay that he's at right now? Because he's still doing all of the oversight that he's been doing.
Can I answer to that?
Well, I've let John hang out there long enough. And you did a great job, John. Thank you. This was my idea, and the intent was to streamline the operation. I knew we had a soil erosion problem coming down. I knew the audit was bad, and I was trying to do things to get ahead of that to say we're going to make corrections. Technology is not the answer, but it does help. You can't manage effectively what you can't measure, so that helps us do that. And I have asked Paul Stigala to work with Gene in terms of better management of practices. I want performance plans, performance reviews, which I don't believe they've ever had before. I want more measurements. The technology is going to make sure that we're getting full productivity out of people, and then we can measure that, and that will improve the customer service. Anything that I'm recommending is fluid. If we're finding things that don't work in a year, we'll fix it. But obviously, I've gotten enough feedback that it isn't working as well as I would like it to work in terms of the standards of customer service I would like to have. Commissioner Klaus certainly has had good experiences. We've had others who've had bad experiences. So I have to assess both of that and see if I can come with a win-win for everybody. I think this will allow more on-site management and an ability to help track better. And I'm looking for performance outcomes. Commissioner Wheelock's points in terms of the dollars will get you the savings in terms of elimination of a position. I have to look at the job description for supervisor directors. They have different job descriptions. I can't pay for a director's position if the managerial responsibilities have changed and are different. So I have to look at it from that perspective as well. I would also add, again, supporting Commissioner Wheelock, this should never have come to you. This is staffing. And we're working on bringing to you some recommendations in terms of how we can develop that balance. Staffing should be the administrative operations part of the organization, and the other things you mentioned in terms of it wasn't financial, it's administrative, that's the way it should be too. We'll be able to cut down on half of these meetings when we get this thing, but we are actually working on that now. We had a meeting last Friday. We're fine-tuning it to the point of authority for purchasing. You know, I have a $10,000. It should be $25,000, $30,000. I'd eliminate half the stuff that comes to you if they did that. So we're going to give you a plan on all of that, and these things will be included in that for you to consider so we can reestablish what we consider a healthy balance. But I'm having this discussion. I'm saying we shouldn't be having this discussions. That should be my job as administrator to say this is what we're doing. It's operations. This is the rationale for it. We give you the rationale, but it should be done. And we need to work on that healthy balance. And so I would, above what we're discussing, would say you shouldn't even be discussing it. I should be telling you what kind of organizational redesign we're doing, the rationale for it, what we think the outcomes will be, what we think we're going to measure in terms of the outcomes. If we don't have them, then we'll restructure and redo it and make sure it's better. So I think that gets you off the hook a little bit, John. I'm sorry I let you hang as long as I did. And John and Jean have been very helpful in my saying I need to do some things differently. The soil erosion, again, Commissioner Wheelock's a good point. Enterprise fund, non-enterprise fund. I need to talk to the Soil Conservation District. Who better to do soil conservation than the one that's doing it? And we're going to arrange a meeting to talk to them to see if they can partner with us to take over some of that. That's their job, you know. So there's lots of solutions here, and we're going to be exploring all of those, and then we'll put them in place. And one of them is talking to the Soil Conservation
Not
District.
necessarily their job, but it is their expertise.
I'm sorry?
It's not necessarily their job, but it is their expertise.
Yeah, and so I think there may be a way that in a collaborative fashion, we can get them more involved in the process.
I think the Soil Conservation District and the Land Conservancy both can help us with our soil
Yes,
erosion issue.
I think you're absolutely right, and we are arranging meetings with them to see if there's some way we can collaborate with them. So there's lots of solutions, and all we have to look at is if it's not working as well as we like and we're getting a certain noise level, we need to address that, and so we're addressing it.
Okay.
Dan?
So why is this in front of us, and what are we supposed to do with it?
Well, you got me.
I made a
I'm
motion
still new yet.
for a staffing
What I'm
plan
wor-
adjustment.
My answer to you is we are actually have had a couple meetings on a plan we're going to bring to you in terms of how we can improve this process. And one of it would be Mr. Wheelock's things mentioned, this situation, staffing needs to be in administration, and we're going to bring you a total plan for you to look at, act on, discuss in terms of a way of going forward. And the result will be, I think, a more clear picture of roles, policy, strategies, implementation, and how we would do that to make sure there's buy-in and then move forward on that basis.
Bob?
To answer Dr. Lathrop's question, the reason that we bring these matters to the Board of Commissioners is because when we implemented hiring freezes years ago, the board wanted to review and approve all staffing changes as well. And so there was a resolution by the board, and I've suggested to Mr. Menzel tonight that maybe we put it on the agenda for a future meeting, or you could do it tonight if you wanted to add that to the agenda.
That would be
I
for
think that discussion has to be had, but I don't think we're prepared to have that discussion this evening.
Yeah.
And I think you're absolutely right. The staffing plan as it is currently drafted requires board action to amend the staffing plan. And I think we have to proceed with that this evening.
We need to let the prosecutor finish, though, what he was saying.
I'm sorry, Bob.
Because I think he has some pretty good advice on this for us.
I was just going to suggest bringing it back to RMNA next month.
If I may, Madam Chairman, I'd like to bring it back in a package and not just piecemeal, but then you can look at the whole thing and say, yes, no, makes sense, doesn't make sense, and maybe acting on two or three things, but it would be one proposal to reform it.
If he were to bring it back in a package, but we had a resolution or we eliminated the resolution that required approval of staffing changes, then it would just be for information purposes only. There wouldn't be
Yeah.
a vote required on any plan that was brought.
Yeah, you suppose the administrator could include it in your board packet?
For your information?
Yeah.
Okay. Any other comments on this? Okay, well, considering we have a current resolution in place that dictates that we vote on staffing plan changes, I don't believe this is for immediate approval. It wasn't indicated so on there. I do support this staffing plan change because we spend more money than we make. So something's got to give. And if we want to close a pool, the room fills up with people that say the pool is the most important thing. If we want to change animal control, the room fills up with people that say animal control. You want to change soil erosion, the room fills up with people, and they petition about soil erosion. And at this point, I'm not certain what more anybody wants from us because we can't balance our budget, yet we can't apparently make any changes. And what is so impressive to me about these 6 changes in our budget is that we continue to provide services to our citizens. There weren't any services cut to Grand Traverse County residences, yet we managed to eliminate $3 million out of a structural deficit. I know we'll never get a pat of back, I know we'll never get a thank you, and I know we'll hear from every group that is affected by each of those changes, but to me, this is just logical. And if any of you read the DEQ report that we were sent today, I think maybe you would feel just fine about this staffing change. And on top of it, for the record, I went and rewatched all of our Board of Commissioners meetings from January and February. This board was not informed of the DEQ audit. This board was not informed of a DEQ request to have our staffing increased in soil erosion. This board was not included in any of that information. We found out the night of the budget hearing on December 17th of 2015. The initial request against us was the Meyer project in Acme in October of 2014. 4 of us weren't on this board. The administrator wasn't here. The finance person wasn't here. Yet somehow, this blame lies squarely on us, so I find that fascinating. We hired an administrator to solve our budget problem. He's doing it. And I think the prosecutor is correct. We should consider a resolution to allow staffing changes to be done by staff, not by the Board of Commissioners. This isn't for immediate approval, so I will just say all those in favor, except I know we have somebody that isn't. So I just wanted to clearly say I'm calling for a roll call, not because it's immediate approval, but because I know we have dissent. So, Sarah.
Johnson?
Yes.
Lathrop?
Yes.
Max Bauer?
Yes.
Wheelock?
Yes.
Klaus?
No.
Crawford?
Yes.
Propa?
Yes. And since I am RMNA chair, Bob recommended maybe next RMNA. I would like to say that if we have a head nod approval of the board, we could discuss eliminating that resolution for staffing plan changes, and that would give a month for our administrator and our staff to prepare the appropriate information that we would need on the history of that and why we have that standing resolution and what it would mean to remove it.
Hopefully we can have at least an update. I'm not sure we're going to have a formal plan for us to act on, but we should be able to have some sort of an update by then.
Right, but this is just in general, I think, not just in reference to this staff plan change, but I believe the elimination of the resolution would mean moving forward, we would not receive this other than in a for-your information or special orders of business at the beginning, typically non-action item.
Madam Chair, just to kind of summarize, this is just part of a process that we're going to be going through. I hope ending, if I can get it done by mid-August, of every department I'm going to go through. And the intent is if I can get the operating costs down in terms of savings, but still maintain the same level of service delivery, then when we go through this budget in 2017, we won't have to make the drastic cuts because we have saved money. So this is an attempt to not have as draconian a process as we had before. And then we'll start the budget process with, a much better basis, much better understanding in mid-August, get through it by mid-November so that you'll have plenty of time to then go through one-on-one. But we'll give you a much better prepared budget with a lot more thought behind it, with a lot more experience in terms of the organizational redesign. So that's the intent of this. And we will be doing it through IT, Sheriff's Department, all of them. And I've wanted to write a detailed memorandum to everybody. I just haven't got to it yet, but I'm going to try to get to that in the next week in terms of outline what we're going to be doing. At least you'll know kind of the scope of where we're going and what we're doing and why we're doing it kind of thing. So you'll have an understanding of that. But these things will, I'm sure, as we go through a very, like another department, we'll probably be coming back. Unless I have the authority to make those staffing changes, we'll tell you the reason why, but this is not the only one that's going to happen.
John, was there anything further that?
No.
Thanks for all your work on this.
Thank you, John.
Thank you, John.
Okay, I'm missing, I lost my, I looked up the DEQ report and I lost my
Captain Ritter
Agenda.
would be next.
Oh,
No,
okay.
it's veterans,
Oh, I'm
operations
sorry.
millage, Chuck Lurchin.
I'm
Come on,
sorry.
Mr. Lurchin. I'm sorry, I
just read over that because it was just an approval, so.
I did the same thing last week.
Hello, Chuck
Or do it
Lurchin,
there.
Director of Veteran Services. And I'm going to get Tom and probably Bob to jump in here wherever they see it's appropriate. I believe what you have before you tonight is some direction. We're exploring potentially an opportunity to put a millage proposal on the August ballot to fund the operation for Veteran Services, not just for now, but in the future. We foresee quite a bit of need coming up in the future, both the near and the long-term future. We're going to be coming back to you asking to fill those needs. We don't know, of course, if that's going to be, the resources for that are going to be available to you to support us the way that we need to be supported. So towards the end of last budget year, I sat down with Mr. Menzel, we were bouncing ideas around. This came up. We've done some preliminary work on it, and I think for this evening, Mr. Menzel wanted to see if we were going to move any further forward on this. So we don't have very much information to give you as far as rates, and we can give you some very preliminary figures if you need them. We did do a little bit of research. About 10 years ago, counties in Michigan, there was probably about 8 of them that funded their veteran services operations through some type of property millage, some of them directly levied by boards of commissioners, which you have the authority to do. And since that time, over the last 10 years, or throughout the recession, we're now up to a minimum of 44 counties in the state of Michigan that are funding these operations through a property tax millage, either directly levied upon the property tax, the property owners, or through an operational vote to go ahead and do that. So I don't know how all of this works. As far as the legalities and how it gets put on the ballot and all of that. I know Mr. Cooney's been working on that. He can probably update you on that. But essentially, in short, that's where we're at tonight. Are we going to move forward with this and maybe bring a ballot question back to you to be placed on the election in August? Or are we going to continue on with general fund?
Chair?
Yes, Dan.
Stupid question. Would this be, let's pretend we do pass a millage and then the money would go to you guys. I'd like to see it happen. But would that mean you'd use just that money to operate, or would you still need the money that county gives you?
I think our goal would be to fund the entire operation. You have several things that are mandated within my department, entitlement payments that have to be made, of course the operation, staffing and commodities and everything involved with that. My understanding is we're looking to fund the entire operation.
So right now, the county, you're being funded from
100%.
General revenues.
Mm-hmm.
May I?
Yeah.
Commissioner Johnson and we sat down, and I felt badly that we were going to, as we're going through the budget process, cut veterans, and they really need more service than less. And I said, the projection is we're going to have to cut more, just because we don't have the money to pay for it. And so it's really Chuck and Commissioner Johnson's idea. They brought it to me, and I just thought it was a good idea to explore, so they deserve credit for it. The benefit is that it would not take money out of general revenues, which we don't have to give them, so it would save us money in that regard. It would take them out of this, do you have enough for this year, do you not have enough for next year, and it allows them to do some long-term planning on new programs that they've talked about that the veterans could use, because you know your funding is coming in, it's consistent, and you can plan accordingly. So it just made a lot of sense to take a serious look at this and look at it in terms of, what steps need to be taken, get a committee together to see, and they've done that, to see if there's enough support for something like that. And then I said, look at it from the perspective of just not replacing the exact general revenues, but look at it in terms of some of the things that you think are really needed to add benefit and value to these veterans' needs, and ask for that too, so that you can plan it out and actually sell it to the general public, is it's going to expand the program availability to meet the needs of the veterans. And so that's the genesis of the idea, and we think that's a good solution. It helps the county at a time they're in financial stress. It also takes some well-deserved support for people that need it off of, are you going to have it this year and not have it the next year? And they'll also be able to plan out where, and a lot of these programs are long-term. You just don't take a veteran and say, we're going to help you for 3 months. There can be issues that need 1, 2, 3 years, and it allows them to plan and put the resources in place for that and have a better return on the investment and value for the veteran themselves. So it just makes sense, and I think we thought that we needed to just get a feeling for the board whether they thought this was a good concept, a good idea, and could support it. And if yes, then we'll move forward with the planning process of what the millage would look like, what the amount would be, how would we justify that, link it into programs and things that it would help support and move forward, and then get really drill down after that. But
So it'll be similar to what we do with Commission on Aging?
This is concept. Very similar to that.
Cool, thank you.
Bob, and then Rob.
Yeah, part of this, when you hear the word, helping veterans, and I don't mean to put you on the spot, but because I think I've seen the number somewhere, how many dollars has your department brought back to veterans here locally? Do you know?
I know exactly what you're talking about. It's impossible to give you a firm figure. I can tell you what the federal government expends in distribution of benefits within Grand Traverse County. Our office isn't responsible for all of that.
But you assist
even
a good part of it.
conservatively, if we were responsible for 75% of that last year in the area that our department handles, it was about $52 million. Yeah. That's paid out in the form of benefits. The VA in most communities, in all communities, whether it's through the operation of medical centers, the payments, direct payments to veterans, needs-based benefits through pensions, all the whole different types of benefits, GI Bill, education benefits, it's an integral part of most successful economies because it's just those federal dollars coming back. In the United States, it's tax dollars in, tax dollars out for veterans benefits. There's no stamp that they sell. There's no special veterans tax or anything else. In my business, we call that recoveries. We like to see high recoveries. We like to see the recoveries of our tax dollars that we contribute locally coming back to us in the form of those benefits. So every veteran that we can get access to their earned entitlements to their veterans benefits are typically eliminated from other social programs. So
And where do we rank? I know there's a little contention about where we rank with money left on the table. I know we're pretty low.
And that's a state issue. The state's trying to adjust that. So Michigan has always been, at one time we were 53 out of 53, 50 states and 3 territories where the VA operated programs. Michigan was bringing in 53rd. And we have the 7th largest veterans population in the country. So it took a long time, lots of years and lots of trips to Lansing to try and get Michigan, who was never in the veterans game. And just 2 years ago, they opened their own veterans department at the state level. And they've been operating as a marketer so far. They offer no direct services to veterans, but they are spending millions and millions of dollars on advertisements and outreach and things like that to get the veterans to come in. It's one of the things that we're talking about for the future. They're all coming into our offices. So every county in the state has an office funded by the county. When we bring that up to the state, they say, well, your county has the ability to fund your office through direct tax levy or through this funding source too. So I don't get involved in that. We service people, And but if that answers your question, it's a ton of money that comes into the community. The VA employs about 53 full-time employees in Traverse City.
Yeah, and that's one of the points one of the reasons I asked about where we're at, because the MVAA, it's almost like another unfunded mandate. They're dumping, like you said, millions of dollars. They just started a TV campaign now to make veterans aware that they may be eligible for benefits. And what that does then is when they call the MVAA or log online, it directs them right to the Grand Traverse County office if you're here locally. So, they're seeing a lot more traffic in there, and anything we can do to help reduce the time it takes from when a veteran calls to get an appointment, I fully support. Because earlier this year, you were down to 12 or 15 days, and now you're at, I think, 28 roughly, and that's just going to grow. They're seeing more veterans, and they do a wonderful job of doing fully developed claims with VA, which what that means that, you hear all the talk about how long it takes a veteran to get into the VA system. And when they do a fully developed claim, you could probably, I want to say it's like less than 90 days or something they get in the system, but they greatly cut down from years to, helping them know exactly what they need to put in the claim and make sure it gets right in there. So
I think the federal average is somewhere between 16 and 18 months.
yes, and you would know what your average is, but it's pretty low really compared to that. So
Ron?
So, not being familiar with VA, with the whole system, is it that the county actually has to provide the office for staff to help the veterans collect their money?
No, our entire staff are county employees.
Okay, so is it the federal money is strictly goes to the veterans, or do we get any federal
It goes
assistance?
directly to the claimant, to the veteran, the veteran's widow, whoever it may be, but to the claimant. We get no direct funding from either the state or the federal government.
So it's basically then our VA office that you operate, it's just to assist the veterans, to help them get through the system.
Navigate the system, sure.
And it's for Benzie, Grand Traverse, and Leelanau County?
We contract with Leelanau and Benzie
Okay.
for our services. We provide services to them under contract.
And they collect from their county? So,
Benzie levies a tax, Leelanau does not.
okay, to help.
To pay for
your
the service.
Okay.
It is a mandate that you have to provide these services for people.
Much of it.
And sometimes you'd classify that as an unfunded mandate because you're not funded, but you're told you have to do it. That's why Benzie has put the millage in. And
And there are a lot of counties that provide the mandated service, but they truly do not do anything to help people get through the process.
yeah. I think it's worth taking a serious look at. I think that in just a few of the numbers that we've thrown around, it's not that much. It's surprisingly a small amount for what you get for it. When we went through it, it sounded to me like it was something worth exploring and had some value. And the money stays here. It helps our veterans in our area. It doesn't go anyplace else. And so that's why we wanted to bring the concept to you and see what your reaction would be to that.
I guess my initial understanding was that this would be an enhancement of the services. Is it an enhancement of the services and also replacing the money that the county puts in? Is it, would it
That's our
reduce the
intent,
money
yes.
that the county puts in? Is it a reduction? Is it a complete replacement?
It's a replacement.
Complete replacement.
And you ask for a certain amount for replacement, but if you're looking to add additional services, then you would add a little bit more. And so that's the discussion, but.
So it replaces the budget, it
Right.
places the money back into the
Right.
general fund, and I just want to make sure that also enhances not just a replacement of the funds.
My main motivation, because that's hit the nail on the head, is I'm going to be coming to you next year, 2 years from now, 3 years to now. I'm going to need more. There's just no doubt about it. We've gone without things for the last 7 years, the last 4, we've asked for things. You just aren't able to give it to us right now. And that's only going to get worse. So we can do something about it now, or, we feel that this segment of your population, these are entitlements they've earned, they're very difficult to get. It's a very bureaucratic, complicated system. We're very successful at it, and we don't want to make them wait. We don't want to, not be able to be there for them. Not that it's any more important than any other service, but with this particular service, we have 2 ways to actually fund it. 3, if you count the way we funded it here in our county since 1946, which was when this office was opened, and that's through general fund expenditures. In 1952, the state of Michigan gave boards of commissioners enabled them to go out and directly levy a millage specifically for our services. They put that level of importance on it. We've always chosen not to do it. I've talked with, over the years, several times with Mr. Childs, several times with Dennis Aloya, at least once with Dave Benda. It's been brought to boards before. There was no interest in it. We can fund it through general fund. From a legal standpoint, you were meeting the intent. You were staffing and operating an office, but times are different. So I don't want to have to be standing in front of you in 4 or 5 years when we really need to enhance things such as technology and things like that, and it's just not available to us. So this would solve that.
Another question. Do you have, or would you have in the near future, a specific plan for what exactly you plan to do with the extra money?
The first year, we're going to just basically maintain the level of services we have right now, and then we will develop those plans for what we need. The last 2 times that we needed software updates, very expensive stuff, we weren't able to get it from previous boards of commissioners because the money just wasn't there. We were lucky enough that we received a private donation for multiple thousands of dollars. So that's all coming. That's all down the road.
I think in this building on Chuck's, I think you have to have some idea of what it's going to cost to maintain your level of service, but also what you're going to have to improve your level of service. And you would have that outlined, and then if a millage is put on the ballot and it passed, then you drill down because you know exactly what you have to work with, and you could get real specific. I think that's how the process would work.
Well, we've talked for years about the need for an enhanced veterans clinic here, and we're getting there. But, if we had some opportunity to have some skin in the game, if you will, I think maybe that could happen sooner.
I think the other issue that drove this was, as I look at our pension obligations and our health care problems, and then discussions we had, I will not be able to provide the same amount of general fund revenues going forward, and it will require cuts. And this is one of the areas that there's a solution to that. And so I thought we needed to take a serious look at it.
Christine. This is kind of a soft spot in my heart. My father spent about 1.5 years of his life in a German POW camp. And that's where he celebrated his 21st birthday. And I asked him one day why he did that. And he said, so you can vote. So I have a very, very strong affection for the veterans and what they have given us and what they have given our country. That having been said, back in 2010, Michigan was dead last in veteran benefits, dead last. And Mr. Lurchin is exactly right. We were behind Puerto Rico in veterans benefits, totally unacceptable. And Governor Snyder, like him or dislike him, he agreed this is unacceptable. These are benefits that veterans earn. They are entitled to these benefits. And so Governor Snyder stepped up and appointed Jason Allen to lead a charge to get Michigan veterans the benefits that they deserve. Jason Allen did a very good job. He got us up from dead last to 46th. It's still not good enough. If the residents of Grand Traverse County would support a 1/10 of a mil, that would raise between $450,000 and $500,000 annually for the veterans, to get them give them the service they need for the benefits that they have earned. I looked at my tax bill. I brought it 2 weeks ago. So I left it in my car, and I'm sorry I did that. I have an assessment on my tax bill. 1/10 of a mil cost me $6.90 a year. Yes, I will support $6.90 a year on my tax bill to give the veterans of Grand Traverse County the benefits that they have earned. I think that's just me. I know there are voters who are going to oppose that suggestion. But that is their right. And I believe that we should move forward with putting this to a vote. As our administrator has said, as we move forward with our budget discussions, every department is going to be strained. I strongly, I don't want our veterans to suffer. I want them to have the benefits they earned. I know the services. I've experienced them several times personally with Mr. Lurchin and Mr. Lurchin's staff, with veterans who have been in dire straits, who had no heat, who had no electricity, who had no phone, and had decorated veterans that didn't have, not much on the shelf in the wintertime.
But they had a Purple Heart.
And he was able to turn their heat on. He knows the system, I mean immediately. Turn their electric on, get them the groceries they need, apply for the benefits that they have earned that should be coming to them on a monthly basis. I can go on and on. Again, I do think this is something that we should ask the voters of Grand Traverse County if they will support. Me personally, and in my perspective is very, very different. I saw what World War II did to my daddy. So I will support this personally and publicly.
One other thing, I think, when we talk about veterans benefits and we talk about the VA, I think the one piece that we kind of sometimes forget is that when the VA was started, nobody dreamed about military reserve personnel being put in harm's way, because those Army reserves that have now served 6 and 7 terms, some of them in the Middle East, they have been put in harm's way. Now they are entitled to the same benefits as the so-called regular Army that we historically knew about. So I think one of the problems that the VA has is just simply growing pains.
It's too many people.
Because all of a sudden there's thousands and thousands of reservists that have been deployed, not only once but multiple times, that are now entitled to benefits, both medical, psychological, and all of the other benefits that are available to them, that the system was never designed to include those people. It just wasn't, and we just simply don't have capacity to meet the needs of this many people, and we can all, we've all seen the newspaper articles and the news articles about, veterans clinics that are not providing adequate service. They are just overwhelmed, and we have to find a way to provide adequate service for our veterans in our community.
Does this need a vote?
No.
Well, his recommendation is to approve to draft the details of the ballot question, and then he'll return to the board
Mr. Cooney's got
for consideration. But I was going to ask you, just what are the steps of this process?
Well, that's what I was looking for, is just a motion to pursue a operational cost millage for Veterans Affairs. I know when I talked to Chuck about this, he's looking at the August 2016 ballot. So if you want to include that in the motion, we would have to have approval prior to March 10th, I believe is the date, according to Bonnie.
May 10th
Oh, it's May 10th?
is when the certified ballot wording has to be provided to our office for August.
So we've got some time on it.
But sooner's the better.
Earlier's better.
Earlier's better.
Sooner is better, yeah.
And I would say that, yeah, there are some issues involved in drafting this millage language. For one, as Commissioner Klaus pointed out, this is actually 3 counties with a 3-county board that oversees Veterans Affairs, and so there'd have to be some thought about how we draft the millage language because of that. Obviously, the tax dollars could only go to benefit veterans in Grand Traverse County. And there are also constitutional limits on tax rates, some issues there that we have to look at, but I'm optimistic that there is a way to draft the millage language so that it goes to benefit veterans and that we're able to put that before the voters for their consideration. So all we're looking for right now tonight is a motion to pursue, again, an operational cost millage for Veterans Affairs for the August 2016 primary election.
Madam Chair, I move that we pursue an operational millage for August 2015 ballot. 16, it is 16, isn't it? Yes.
I would support.
Well, it's interesting, it came full circle. I just said in the last issue, we don't take in as much money as we spend. And this is a great example of how we can start addressing that problem by still providing services and allowing the citizens to speak on how their money's spent. The board doesn't pick.
And historically, we've been very fortunate. You know, the community has supported the Commission on Aging for a long time. There's a lot of communities that are putting general fund monies into their Commission on Aging. You know, we've been fortunate.
Well, I hope for success for this millage, but I think it's not our decision to sell it. Senate Bill 571 has already made sure that we know that. It's not our decision, it's the citizens' decision, and I certainly won't stand in the way of any ballot proposal that follows the law for letting people allow the right to speak. But I don't think that it's a hard call to make for supporting veterans. One thing, just to follow up on the fact that we spend more than we make, many people are unaware of the Headley Amendment and that it puts a cap on the taxes. Many people come up to me in public and say, just raise the taxes, just raise the taxes. We can't raise the taxes. Now, a citizens group could get together and petition to put on the ballot, I believe, but the Board of Commissioners can't just simply raise the taxes. We don't have that ability because we have hit the cap on the Headley Amendment. Is that correct?
You'd have to have some sort of voter approved.
It would have to be an initiated by the citizens. So that's where we're at in this county. When I say we get filled in every time we try to make a cut or a strategy, if you don't like those cuts or strategies, you as citizen groups have the right to speak and be heard, and you have the right to advocate before this board, just as Mr. Lurchin did, for good services to get help and more stable funding. And I think that that's really what this is all about. It's not our decision to raise taxes, but it's our decision to let people speak on how they want their tax money spent.
Chuck, one of the things I would like from you is, I'm not interested in just plugging a hole in the county budget. What I'm interested in is seeing a plan to enhance services for the veterans of Grand Traverse County.
That's what I was getting at as well. I want to see, I think voters are more likely to vote for that if they have a plan. Exactly what are you going to spend the money on? Exactly where is it going? Not just, it's going to Veterans Affairs.
And I greatly
Specifically.
appreciate Jim Tompkins writing that check. Former mayor of Traverse City wrote the check that allowed Chuck to upgrade his software, but we don't have that many people that are willing to just walk in the office and say, what do you need?
Wow.
I know you need stuff, but I would like to see a plan for
We live in a very
enhancement.
special community, and we're hoping very much that if we do go ahead with this, that they're very supportive of that. And we can promise them that, these folks will be well taken care of. So we're doing the best we can with what we have. We need more, we're gonna need more, and, hopefully we'll choose not to let them down. So we'll forge ahead.
And if you ever want to see that in action, last Monday of the month, there's the Grand Traverse Area Veterans Coalition meets. I think now it's moved to the AML. 6:30 or 7, George? 7? And that's all of the area veterans groups. And the place is packed. And they all work together to solve any veterans issues. I mean, it'll give you goosebumps when you see at the airport when a veteran's coming home and there's a flag line to greet them.
Wow.
I mean, and they pull that off at the last minute. The other thing I will throw in there, and I know we've beaten a dead horse, but as a Coast Guard retiree, we're a Coast Guard city. And I couldn't tell you off the top of my head, but I think there's less than a handful of those in the country. And it takes a lot to get that recognition. And what that means is that the community fully supports the Coast Guard. And this community supports the Coast Guard and every other veteran, active and retired, like I've never seen. So it's good to be here.
Well, thank you for helping find a solution.
Yeah, just one other question. Bob, you'd mentioned that we would have to find a way to make sure these dollars stay with the Grand Traverse County veterans and not Benzie and Leelanau. From the, if the millage was passed and there was funds coming in, this is, your department takes care of, your services are to help veterans get their federal money. How could we even come close to keeping track of how you can't, I can't see it in my head how you can take a certain
We've thought about that, yep, and there's some thoughts on that. Right now, what we do is, if a millage were in place, then your appointed Veterans Committee, I would assume, would come to you each year to go ahead and assign the next year's rate. If we had enough, great. If we needed more, whatever it may be. We sell a commodity, our service, to Benzie and Leelanau. The committee would then have to take those service fees into account with how much they're asking the residents of Grand Traverse County to pay. So between the two counties, we're paid just about $75,000 a year right now. So when the Veterans Committee comes to you each year to set the millage rate for the coming year for veteran services, that amount would be factored in to how much we're asking for.
So you would collect that much more from Benzie and Leelanau?
Correct.
Or subtract that much from your next
From the
year's budget,
request.
From the request.
Right, something like that.
Right.
We'll figure it out.
Well, you're already dealing with it because
Mhm.
Benzie has a millage.
Yes. Benzie has a millage right now that they're paying us out of.
Okay.
So,
All right, thank you.
good question.
Because quite frankly, if you're helping someone, I wouldn't care how you do it, but I know you have to divide it, but if there's needs, you want to help people.
Well, and any veteran, whether they live in Grand Traverse County or not, can walk into Chuck's office
Yeah.
and receive benefit.
Right.
That's why we do what we do.
By state law, a veteran passing through from North Carolina, we could assist him with your Soldiers Relief funding that you give my office each year. And if he needed a bus ticket to get home or whatever, we can assist him.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Urchin.
Thanks, Chuck.
Now, it's Todd's turn.
Good evening, Todd Ritter, Jail Administrator for the Grand Traverse County Sheriff's
You
Office.
can tell that you're the newly appointed administrator, because Bensley called me and said, how many people should come there tonight? And they said, in fact, we don't have to come, we don't want to come, so they sent you because you're low on the seniority, I
Exactly.
guess, right?
Exactly, I drew the short stick. Well, tonight we need to discuss our medical service vendor contract is up. Gave you a packet outlining the RFP process we used, as well as the evaluation process we went through to evaluate the vendors that submitted. We did have 2 vendors that submitted proposals. Our current vendor, Correct Care Solutions, as well as Advanced Correctional Health Care. One of the biggest issues we had in the evaluation process was the entire evaluation team didn't think we could compare apples to apples. Unfortunately, Advanced Correctional Healthcare didn't answer a lot of the questions we need answered. They did come in with a lesser cost, but I can't tell you if that lesser cost is going to give us the same level of service that we
It's
are
not that
asking
much.
for or not.
It was around $20,000, which
Yeah,
isn't
yeah, so
much in
it
terms
wasn't,
of the
it wasn't
contract.
significant. As far as health care services goes with what we have now with Correct Care Solution, we have been very satisfied with the health care services we're getting in the jail. I think on page 7, you did see that in paragraph 2 there, we've had some issues that we still have unresolved with them, but I'm confident that we're going to work through those issues. That's an issue outside of the medical service they provide. But as far as the medical services themselves, we've really had no issues and we're satisfied. So it is our position we'd like to move forward and continue with Correct Care Solutions.
Madam Chairman, I would move to enter into a 3-year contract with CCS to provide medical services in our jail.
Support.
Moved by Wheelock, support by Johnson. Discussion?
Todd, although one thing I had questioned, we had some pretty extensive discussion earlier in the year about the psychiatric situation, the
Yes.
psychiatrist thing.
Yes.
Now, I see there's a price in here for psychiatrist services at $31,300. Is that included in the 424, or is that over and above that number?
That is included in the correction. That is not included in the 424. However, it was included in my budget request, that figure, so it would all come in under what was granted in my operating budget for 2016.
And how does the $31,300 compare to what we paid Dr. Conlon?
Right now, Dr. Conlon's contract is not to exceed $20,000. With CCS, they have outlined in that $31,000 the exact care we will get each week. With Dr. Conlon right now, it's kind of fluid. She's really trying to reserve when we really need her to stay in that cap. I think what we're going to see is we will have additional care provided for that figure than we're getting now. And it's very likely that that care provider could be Dr. Conlon. CCS is talking to Dr. Conlon to actually be the telepsychiatrist from a remote location, so.
From a remote location, that's the key piece, because
Correct.
that's the reason we were scrambling, because she was leaving.
She is leaving.
Leaving the community for a year.
Yes.
Anyone else? Any questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, we do not have the fleet management services contract tonight. No unfinished business. We'll move on to new business. Ad hoc committee assignments. I was told today that it's not just Parks and Recreation. We now have an opening on the Beta Board as well. Last year, at the end of the year, when I created an ad hoc committee, I said that it would be for all of these positions that ended December 31st. So it will continue to be the same ad hoc committee, which was Max Bauer and Lathrop and myself. Chris Kramer is contacting the Parks and Recreation applicants because applications are good for a year. There are some people that applied almost a year ago, so they will be contacted as well to see if they're still interested. Both of our current members whose seats came up, they both are seeking reappointment, and then we have had some new applications as well. And then the Beta just happened, and they are going to be advertising for that and expect to see something within 30 days or so. So she will work on doing that, so no creation of an ad hoc. On to the next ad hoc committee, the expenses/procurement cards. I contacted our administrator today, and rather than the typical policy, which would be the chair to choose the committee, I am going to hand that over to our administrator because he has been working on this and has in mind who he would like to appoint. So rather than appointing it myself and having board approval, I'm going to ask that the board approves my recommendation that Tom Menzel create the procurement card expenses ad hoc committee. So I'll make a motion for that.
Support.
Any discussion? Tom, did you
Well,
have
I
anything to add?
think you had something, Chris.
Well, I don't, you all know that I've had my nose in the AS400 system, and
It's never been the same.
I have to tell you.
The system or her nose?
Well, but probably both. Probably both, Sonny. There is an opportunity, in my view, to make some changes in policy in our systems that will reduce our annual expenditures. And I was very, very conservative when I made my estimate, and I do have documentation to support it. Will save us about $200,000 a year that we're spending that we ought not to be spending. I want to say and take this time to, again, greatly appreciate Cherry Wolf's assistance. I have, every week I am up there and see her working, I am more and more impressed with the Herculean job that she is doing. When you have a person that's practically every day on the phone trying to reverse sales tax that we ought not to be paying, and there's such a simple way to fix this. Anyway, I want to say thank you to Cherry, and I'll give Tom the floor.
Well, if I may, Madam Chair, when we talked about this, I would like to see if there's a problem that the commission has, give it to the staff to see if we can solve it. And so my suggestion was this: let us set the committee up to explore this. And I had a specific reason for doing it. As you know, I've had a deputy administrator who's accepted the position contingent upon the psychological profile. I would like to have that individual project manage this. I have sent out a consultant contract to a very impressive consultant who used to be the controller for the state of Michigan, who wants to work with us on some things. I would like to bring her on this project as well. It's not a large project, but I want to see how it works together, because if it works well, I want to put her on some larger projects. And then I told Jerry I wanted her on the committee as well. And because Commissioner Maxbar's done so much due diligence on that, I wanted her to be on the committee if she would, and have that group be the committee. It does a lot of things for me. I can evaluate how a couple of unknowns are going to work together and how that's going to move forward. So I'd like to have them really evaluate the situation and find out what the specifics are, and you've got a lot of that done. And then look at policies. Do policies need to be rewritten? Are our policies good, just not being enforced? And come back to the board for that if that's required as one of the solutions. But I want the recommendations on how we can put more accountability into the system. I don't know what the solutions are, but I want that group to come and give me those recommendations. One of them, I'm sure, of a number of things would be that if Cherry is the one who's given the responsibility to monitor this, she's not given the authority to do anything if she finds something wrong. So you don't give someone the responsibility but not the authority to act if you find something wrong. That would be a recommendation, I think, that would come out of it. So the intent is to have that committee come up with those implement what I feel is necessary from an administrative role, and then if there's policy changes that needed to be made to help in that reform process, bring that to the board and have them, have you consider those policy changes to make it a stronger policy. But I think there are, from what I have seen, and not pointing any fingers, and I don't think anyone's trying to do anything dishonest. I think it's just gone on for so long that people have it's never been checked. And some of the things that I saw on there, you shouldn't be spending tax dollars on. And I didn't drill in as far as Mr. Maxbar to come to a $200,000 number, but I could pretty much guarantee you, if we set up a good system and start monitoring it and hold people accountable based on clear guidelines, we're going to save quite a bit of money. And so,
I've got a question. Tom, I like your line of thinking regarding the committee. The only question I have is, and this is actually for Mr. Cooney, at what point do you think we ought to bring Mr. Forsythe in? I mean, if we're talking about policies, or maybe it should be Mr. Cole or Paula, or do you want to just kind of just take one step at a time? And
well, I think that when you get into the recommendation solutions, then you bring in the resources to say, if we have to write the policy, you would check with your legal people to find out how you do that. If it impacts contractual union issues, then you talk to the Peter Coles and say, you know, what can we do, what can we not do? I don't think it'll be that difficult. It's simply tax dollars and expenditures and making sure that they're spent wisely and prudently, and we don't have some of the things I've seen continue in the future.
I agree that these are primarily policy decisions, not legal matters. And so I think our office should review any policy before it's approved, but I don't think we need to be at the meeting.
Thank you.
We have a motion on the floor. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, thank you, Tom. And that brings us to the end, to second public comment. Matt?
Matthew Scheck, 306 West 9th Street, Traverse City. I wasn't going to come up here, but veterans are kind of my bag as well. I went through Great Lakes Naval Hospital upon my return from Vietnam, and that wasn't a veterans hospital, but that was a military hospital. I received very good care there. I was glad to get out of there, though. But it was at Veterans Hospital downstate, Ann Arbor, not Ann Arbor, I'm sorry, Allen Park, that if you really want a vision of veterans hospitals, think of Obamacare on steroids. I mean, it's like government-run hospitals when government doesn't know how to run hospitals. I thought, you know, as this question has come up over time, that most people would probably prefer, and myself as a veteran, would rather have done follow-up care through some type of system where you can come back to your local communities and a doctor that would take you in could treat you and he could be reimbursed through, I don't know, Medicare, some type of program, but at least it would be an insurance that was covered, you know, beforehand when you go into the military, that type of thing. I know that a couple of you did ask a couple questions here, and I had to get with the gentleman that was up here. That's why I ran him down in the hall out here, because a couple of questions that weren't answered is if you get the money, you know, what type of services? And he at least gave me the answer out there that I was looking for, and it wasn't medical care. I know a lot of people think a good medical care veterans hospital in Traverse City would be great, but I still think probably the best thing that anybody can do for veterans is quit using our military as messengers of or running fool's errands, fighting wars around the world that, and And following UN rules of engagement, the Marines at Fallujah deserve a lot better than that, plus all the other services that have participated. We create so many more problems when our own people are being abused, and I use that literally. We abuse people. We don't fight wars to win. We are acting as the world's policemen. And then, yes, they have to be taken care of, and I believe they should be taken care of. But it's just such a terrible waste of people's lives and treasure of our country, involved in no-win wars, undeclared. So I just wanted to get that off my mind, and just to tell you, follow that through. I'd like to see it go on the ballot. I can't tell you whether I'd be for it or not. I wasn't aware that our county has, thanks to, I guess it was the state or even the federal government, it becomes an unfunded mandate like was already mentioned here, so we've got to do those things. Thank you.
Anyone else? We will close public comment and on to Commissioner Committee reports. Sort of that on
Beta, we did hire, we are in negotiations to hire Kelly Dunham to be our new Beta CEO, and we're very excited. It was unanimous. We went through a very public, long process, and we had some wonderful candidates. But still, Kelly stood out head and shoulders above all of them. We're very delighted to do that, and we're looking. We've got to do some negotiations with her, but we're excited about it, and we're excited about the future of Beta.
And congratulations to you, the new chair of the Beta Board.
Yeah.
Well,
Right.
I don't think that's. I'm temporarily the new chair because I'm vice chair.
Mm-hmm.
At the end of the month, they might or
They'll
might not
confirm.
elect me chair. We'll see. As you know, there's a lot of money in being chair of Beta. I want that position.
Free bus
They're
ride?
lined up.
Well, the next step.
Lifetime
next
bus
step.
pass?
Yeah, no, Tom
That's
doesn't
right.
get a license pass.
The next step after that is the administrator of the county, right?
See?
Is there a start date for Kelly?
Pardon?
Is there a starting date that you've agreed on for her?
We're going to, I think, the goal is our end of the month, which would be the 27th, that we present a contract to the board that they will accept. So,
She'll do a nice job for you. I felt very good about your board selection because I always felt my responsibility as a leader was to provide good bench strength for the organization. So I feel good that you were able to go inside the organization and choose a qualified candidate.
well, she really had some. Her competition was stiff, and it was still turned out to be her. It made me very proud of her.
That makes it even more fulfilling when you've had a competitive situation and you've been selected. She'll do a nice job for you.
Down. Ron, Christine, Sunny?
Long Lake Township's meeting last night was canceled for weather, so they're meeting tomorrow night at 6 o'clock. I do want to at least give you an informal notice. You will get a written one after I make an on-site inspection tomorrow, but I have been contacted by the Facilities Department to address some repairs and possible replacement of a steel stairway at the Law Enforcement Center. And I know they've had some other people in and looked at it. I was not able to get there the first of the week because we were also doing the Orchard and Vineyard show. But I intend to get there tomorrow. And if I do make a proposal, you will receive written notice right away that I have done that.
Up.
Union Township did have their meeting last night.
Wait,
Tough people over in
There you
Union.
go.
I went, so, but nothing to report from the meeting.
Just that it was there.
Okay.
I am on the Northern Lakes Community Mental Health Board, and I am sad to report that one of our longstanding members, actually a representative from Crawford County, Jack Mayhank, sadly passed away. I believe it was yesterday. He was a board member for many, many years. He was a great advocate for this vulnerable set of citizens. He was also on the Crawford County Commission on Aging, and he will be very sorely missed, so.
Well, Garfield and Blair did meet last night. I went to both of those. Garfield Township was able to get into some pretty good negotiations with the state of Michigan DNR and has made an offer on the Mystery 40 acres at the Grand Traverse Commons. Most people don't realize the state of Michigan owns a chunk in the middle. And that's something that I've been on that Parks Board 5 years almost, we've been working on. So this is kind of a big deal, and it will make it all township and city-owned property in there, and that will alleviate some issues that we had with planning and things like that, because we had to deal with the state. The LPT, the local planning team, this week, I forgot to bring it with me. I have it in my car. This is, I should say, Chief Jeff O'Brien of the Traverse City Police brought forward a really interesting thing that I wanted to make sure I mentioned on air. There was a couple in town whose son has special needs. He was involved in an accident. I don't know if he was walking or on a bike, but he was hit by a car. And because of his special needs, he has a difficulty communicating. And unfortunately didn't communicate his needs, that he had actually been injured, so he was sent home. And what he really needed to do was go to the hospital. So his parents came up with an idea for road ID bracelets. I don't know if you're familiar with road ID, but bikers wear them so that if they're in an accident, they... their family funded 3,000 road ID bracelets. They look, if I had it with me, they're bright blue like Max Bowers. Looks like a Fitbit, but instead of the Fitbit part on it, it has a metal plate, and what it has is the person's name and all of their legal guardians. And now the first responders at our LPT, the firefighters, EMT, and police are all represented there. They are training our local Grand Traverse County first responders to know to look for these bands. And the 3,000 that were funded by this gentleman's family, those are all gone. But you're able to, anybody can get one for the price of $24, and you just contact Steve at GTI, Grand Traverse Industries. There's medical alert clips that go on it as well, and the neat thing about it is once they clip on, you can't take it off. So the applications for it are for any of us that have been legal guardians of our adult family members or friends. I, of course, equated to Alzheimer's. I would have loved to have had an identification bracelet for my mother because she wandered so often, and there was no way of anyone knowing. We think of special needs kids or those that can't verbalize, but there's all kinds of applications for this, Down syndrome families and of course those in the autistic spectrum that have children or 18-year-old children, I still call them my kids, that maybe appear normal to a first responder. So they ask them a question, are you okay? And the kid says yes. They're gonna now know, they'll see these bright blue bracelets and they'll know that regardless of what this victim says, we need to contact their medical guardians. Now, unfortunately, legislation in the state of Michigan doesn't allow our probate court to offer these to people when they become medical guardians. But there are citizens in Traverse County that are taking the initiative to work with Lansing to help this. But for right now, any citizen that is a legal guardian of somebody can purchase this through GTI and can get it put on them and make sure that they will be noticed. And of course, right now, we know there's 3,000 people wearing them, so all of our first responders are being trained. It's a great program, and big thanks to Grand Traverse Industries for doing that, and a lot of peace of mind for all of us that deal with special needs family members. So I wanted to say that, and there was one other thing. MTA. I just wanted to thank Lieutenant Chris Barshep. He did a presentation for all of the township officials on the importance of the community police officer program. And I know how supportive the townships are, the county board's support of that. And he had a lot of really interesting updates on technology and how our sheriff's department is going to be mapping crimes. And it was really interesting. If you don't know about that, contact one of your sheriff's deputies. Good stuff. And as far as the notices or announcements,
I will be going as Representative Inman's guest to the State of the State, my wife and I, Tuesday night. So hopefully I can stay awake. It'll be an event nonetheless.
I think it'll be very interesting.
Okay, report back, please.
Yeah, I think that would be very interesting. And just a reminder that Saturday, February 6th, the Guns N' Hoses Charity Hockey Tournament is having its third annual game. And you can purchase tickets at Bill Marsh, and they're also selling T-shirts as well that 100% of the funds go. And the recipient this year is a firefighter, MFR, from, I believe, Benzie County. She was in a terrible car accident and faces many years of rehabilitation needs. So our Grand Traverse Metro and City firefighters will be joining other, I believe there's Blair Fire and Peninsula, I think there's some other ones, will be playing against, of course, the City Police Department and our Grand Traverse Metro Sheriff's deputies. So it's a great thing, and it's out at Center Ice, and Guns N' Hoses, you can just Google it.
They have a great silent auction.
Yes, they do.
Lots of really
It's a
good
really
stuff.
neat project,
It's a
and-
really fun night, so I would encourage.
I would,
It's a great thing to do on a Saturday night.
Madam
What night
Chair, I
is
have a
that? Is it a
question.
Saturday or?
It's
a
Saturday,
Saturday night.
February 6th at Center Ice, and I believe it's 6 o'clock for tip-off, but it could be 7. But they have the silent auction before, and they do all kinds of fundraising
They do the
for-
chuck the puck, and it's
It's
Who's
fun.
supposed to root for?
I
Doesn't
root
matter.
for the fire department. I can't help but. But yeah, I think we equally support both of them. Tom?
I think it's for Commissioner Johnson, but I was wondering, you're on the Airport Commission, correct? And I was wondering if there was any updates on the Costco.
No, we meet later this month, so I'm hoping we have some more. Right now, it's in the, I think, the city, in infinite wisdom to address. So.
We should probably mention for the public that may be watching, Monday, the governmental center is closed to the public for Martin Luther King Day. Staff will be participating in a staff training day.
Is that
But-
is Greg still here? Is that the first shooter training? So if
Right.
somebody sees
Well, yeah.
people running and screaming, it's not just us
Yeah, there
commissioners.
will be a, yeah.
Or the finance department.
She says so little, but.
So no firearms, if you're allowed to carry a gun, please don't do it on that day if you're coming in to visit us.
They could,
Don't
you know,
bring the gun, Andy.
I've notified those who do carry, so.
Christine, did you get a call today?
I got a call.
I wonder how he knew, is what I wondered.
I just knew that you two
He's
were mobile,
clairvoyant.
agile, and
Yeah.
hostile.
If anyone would, it'd be us two, yeah.
Well, the local planning team did meet and go over that, and once again, he's not here, but a shout out to Greg Bird and the coordination with both the city and the county being in the same building and trying to coordinate all of that was very difficult and, should be noted. And I hope that everybody is able to attend on Monday, and it's really educational for everybody because I think it's important. Okay, that being said, we are adjourned.
Thank you for coming.
Sweet mother of pearl.